Ber Heitev, a commentator on the Shulchan Aruch, writes in Siman Reish Tzadi Tes, Sifkan Yadala 299:14. He says as follows. He says that there's a custom for people who are traveling on business that the Saturday night, the Motzei Shabbos, before they travel, that they should learn Parshas Vayishlach. This week's Parsha. Every Saturday night, before they travel on their business trip, they would read through the Parshas Vayishlach, to help them know how to deal with their business encounters over the course of the week. The Ramban writes a little later on, Perek Lamed Gimel, Pasuk Tezvav. He writes, it quotes a medrash that Rav Yanai, when he would travel to Rome to advocate on behalf of the Jewish people, he would read Parshas Vayishlach. He would read the story of Yaakov and Esav, and Yaakov's battle with Esav, and Yaakov's meeting with Esav, and learn from all of the lessons through this week's Parsha how to deal with the outside world. Fascinating idea. I actually met someone who told me that his brother-in-law reads Parshas Vayishlach every Saturday night before he goes on his business trips. I thought it was like one of these ancient things. To this day, people are still doing it. So as we learn the Parsha this week, we should definitely try to focus on all the different lessons that we could glean from the Parsha. I'd like to focus on one. Okay, the Pasuk says in Perek Lamed Beis, Pasuk Yud Beis, that Yaakov Avinu, before he meets Esav, he offers a prayer. What's his tefillah? He says, Hatzileni na miyad achi miyad Esav. Hashem, can you save me from my brother, from Esav? Ki I'm afraid of him. Maybe he'll hit me. Eimal banim, the women, my wives, the children. So he davened, Hashem, please save me from my brother. And if you notice, he really adds in an extra phrase. Yaakov only had one brother. So it would have been enough to say, Hatzileni na miyad achi, save me from my brother. Or, if he really wanted to use his name, Hatzileni miyad Esav, save me from Esav. Why did he need both the brother and Esav? So the Rishonim asked this question. The Zohar actually answers that we learn from here that a person has to be super precise in his tefillah. Because if he would have just said Achi, maybe there's someone out there in the world that's named Achi. Nowadays, in Israel, it's common. You go to a guy, hey, Achi. But maybe there's someone in the world that's named Achi. So, to be specific, he said Esav. And if he would have just said Esav, so maybe there's someone out there in the world named Esav. So he specifically said Achi Esav. So the Zohar says we learn from here that in our tefillah, when we're davening for other people or we're davening for certain things, we want to try to be precise as possible, no ambiguity. Now, how do I know the Zohar, you're all wondering? Because the Mishnah Berurah quotes it. The Mishnah Berurah says in Siman Kuf Yud Tes, in Hilchos Tefillah, the Shulchan Aruch tells us that throughout our Shmona Esrei, if we want to daven for other things that aren't found in the Shmona Esrei, we are allowed to add them into the bracha. So, for example, if someone knows someone who's sick, they could mention his name in the bracha of Rafa'inu. And the Mishnah Berurah brings down in Siman Kuf Yud Tes Sifkan Beis, he says that the Pri Chadash brings from the Zohar in Parshas Vayishlach, this week's Parsha, Atzileni na v'chulei, a person, when he davens, has to go ahead and be super precise in the way that he davens for other people, the way he davens for certain things. And that's what he learns from this seemingly superfluous terminology of Yaakov, Hatzileni na miyad achi, miyad Esav. However, there's another answer that's given by the Beis Halevi, Yosef Dov Soloveitchik, and he says as follows. He says Yaakov was really davening for two different things. On one hand, he was really scared about his brother Esav, who really wanted to murder him. So he was, physically scared. He's going to come along, and Esav's going to beat him up. He's going to destroy his family. He's going to wipe him out. So he was scared of Esav. But there was another fear that Yaakov had. it wasn't the physical threat of Esav, but it was the threat of Esav acting towards him like achi, like a brother. That Esav maybe would want to try to befriend him and say, well, you're my brother, let's hang out. Let's go for traveling together. Let's go for a walk together. Let's live next to each other. And then the danger was not in the physical threat, but in the spiritual threat. That Yaakov was scared that he would then be affected by the environment that Esav would create and the influence that Esav would bring upon him. And therefore he was davening for two different things. Hatzileni na Hashem, please save me, miyad achi, from the brother, from the Esav acting like a brother, being nice to me, reaching out to me, trying to show me that he has what to teach me, trying to show me that it's in my best interest to what he believes. And Hatzileni na miyad Esav, please save me from the physical threat that Esav brings upon us. This is very important to many of us. Often, especially now, it's always been anti-Semitism, but now we feel it, we're hearing about it a lot more, even in places where many of us just grew up, which we thought were completely safe. But someone might really be nervous to go on the New York State subway with just a kippah on his head. He might be nervous. Who knows who might bump into him on purpose and hurt him, or whatever it is. People are scared. People are scared to get these questions all the time. Should I wear a hat? Should I wear a kippah? Should I not wear a kippah? It's something on people's heads. We're more nervous than before. And we should be nervous. We should be careful. People are not necessarily, there are people out there that are out to get us. We see that in the news every single day, and we have to be careful. We have to be careful from any physical threat that exists. But what we're not as naturally scared of is the brotherly threat. Is the brotherly threat of, we'll call it Esav or the Western culture, where people are trying to impose upon us a belief system. What is important to learn? What is important to believe? How do you go ahead and act? How are you supposed to vacation? How are you supposed to spend your free time? What is the influence that's coming in? For example, a person could be on vacation and he could be on a boat. It's very relaxing, it's fun, it's exciting, you're on a boat. Now, what are you supposed to do on a boat? It doesn't say in the Mishabura, the halachas talks about going on a boat before Shabbos, so you're allowed to go 3 days before Shabbos, but what to do and how to act on a boat is not there in the Shulchan Aruch. So how do you do it? So people have images in their mind of, I saw a movie, and on the boat, what did they do? So in one hand they had a cigar, in the other hand they had a glass of wine, a beer, whatever. That's how you're supposed to act on a boat. And without that, you didn't experience the boat in the proper way. You could be in the most beautiful place, Paradise Island, the most gorgeous fish, the most beautiful mountains. You could be in the most relaxing atmosphere ever. But if I don't go ahead and I don't experience the way that I envision that the boat is supposed to happen, why are people laughing? That the boat is supposed to happen, so therefore I can't go ahead and experience that. So where did that come from? That comes from a Western culture influencing us on how we're supposed to relax on a day-to-day basis. Or we could go to a wedding, and there could be a wedding with a bar and endless amounts of alcohol, and that's what most people remember afterwards when they leave the wedding. They remember what was there, if they remember Bichlal. But that was the experience. Why would you need such a thing? Because that's what we learned, or experienced, or heard about, or saw, that's what a party is. A party is a place with serious alcohol, and the more alcohol you have, the better the party is. Alternatively, a person can have an experience and be at a wedding where there's no alcohol at all. And all the people that are there are just super excited, super happy for the chassan and the kala. I remember when I was 19 years old, I was learning in a yeshiva here in Yerushalayim, and there was an emergency meeting that the boys were called to. We went across the street from the yeshiva. It was in an apartment. I was really nervous. No one told me what it was about. It was an emergency meeting. Couldn't be in the yeshiva. Had to be across the street. And we got to get together, and someone got up and he said that there was a student in the yeshiva he happened to have been my roommate, and I never knew this, but there was a certain student in the yeshiva that didn't have any contact with any of his parents at all, and he was getting married, and he has $0 to his name, no money, and you're all going home for Pesach. We're going to try to raise some money to make this wedding for this young man. Okay, he was my roommate. I never knew this all about him, kept it a big secret, and went to Pesach, we raised some money, okay? I get to the wedding, and it was like in a small room. The whole place was filled with tables. Not 30 tables, but whatever amount of tables it was. There was no dance floor. And there was no stage for the band. So I'm like, what happened? Like, I can't believe we could have tried to raise more money. Like, what happened here? We didn't, no band? No, like, what's going on? Then I see like this one guy carries his keyboard up into like the little spot. He moves over a few chairs. He plops down his keyboard. I'm like, is that going to be the band of this wedding? And I asked my friend next to me, he's like, yeah, I think that's the band. Like, and where are we going to dance exactly? There was literally no room. He said, I have no idea. Okay. So the chuppah happens, very nice. We all sit down to eat. Comes in the chassan and kala to dance. What happens? We start folding up all the tables. That's it. We ate I'm used to at the wedding 4 courses at least, and I thought there were going to be, no, we were done. We had the piece of schnitzel. It was all over. Fold up all the tables. The man started playing his keyboard, and it was the most amazing wedding that I was ever at in my entire life. The simcha, the joy that existed at that wedding, you could touch it in the air. Everyone was happy. Everyone was doing everything they could to make this chassan and kala happy. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable. There were no flowers. There was no huge orchestra. There was no alcohol. There was no real dance floor. The tables were folded up by the students themselves, and it was unbelievable. It's never been topped in my life. I've been at hundreds of weddings. I still haven't had that experience that I had at that own wedding. It was unbelievable. So we don't need all those things. Who decided that we need those things? It's our environment. It's our society. And we have to check ourselves. How did it get into the society? Who said that we have to have those things at the wedding? Who said that this is how we have to vacation? Who said that this is how we're supposed to spend our time, or this is what we're supposed to be reading? Who said? We have to appreciate that we are living amongst other influences. And it's our goal and our job to live amongst those people and to influence them and to show them the light and show the greatness of Torah and to walk as a Kiddush Hashem, to be a light unto the nations. Everything that we do, people should look at us and say, wow, that's what real simcha is. That's what real joy is. That's what real growth is. That's what a real human being is supposed to be like. Yeah, we are supposed to be like that. But we always have to be checking ourselves again and again and again. Daily, we have to check. What is it that I am doing for all of these other venues that we are involved with to make sure that it is Torah-dik? It's the way that Hashem wants us to act. It's the way that we want to act. And it's not just that we have preconceived conditioning to what is the only way for these different types of examples to exist. And even if we're aware of this, that's already a start. It's already a start. This is not easy. Because every person, no matter what, is influenced by their environment. That's just the mitzias, that is just the way of the world. The question is if we could be cognizant of that, and once we're cognizant of that, we should daven, just like Yaakov davened. That's Leinina miyad achi. The basic lady points out that was the first thing he asked for. He didn't daven for the physical threat first. The first thing he davened for was the brotherly threat. That we all, because we're not as sensitive to it, we don't notice it as much. We're scared of someone big and scary. That we could feel. That's easy. Hashem, save me. But we don't feel that necessarily when it seeps into our culture in just very, very small drops. We don't get it. We don't feel it. We don't understand it. So the first thing is to be cognizant and aware of this tremendous threat, not allowing us to hit our full and maximal potential. And then we have to daven that Hashem saves us and protects us from it, to know how to navigate these stormy waters, and then Be'ezus Hashem will all be able to be successful in navigating it. We'll be able to go through and come out even greater and shinier and be able to influence everyone for the greater good. Shavua Tov.